Then we start getting into it. I'll talk about OAD, or actually Will and I tend to do this together.
Okay.
Will, what I've been staring at you for on this slide is I want you to say leadership traits under stress.
I figured that out now.
That's the topic of the show. Yeah. But
Oh.
me going like this,
prompt.
me doing
The slide
this.
provides zero prompt for that, so you're staring at me to come up with something that I was like.
No, I never asked you to come
Yeah,
prepared. Just remember. That's all. Okay.
Leadership traits
Under stress.
Although
Now, tell the honest truth. Did you watch even your first episode that I posted yesterday? Did you even watch it?
Yeah, I watched it the first time you put it out.
That's true. Okay. That might have been the last one you ever looked at. Welcome to an all-new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. This podcast explores leadership traits under stress with a special guest each week. We use a simple and accurate OAD assessment to identify key personality traits or superpowers, as well as the shadow side, kryptonite traits that appear when we're under stress. As always, we'll have some pod banter, shameless plugging, and we'll even let our guests talk for a bit. Of course, no humble brags. Welcome to the show. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to a brand new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. I'm doing my NPR voice. I'm auditioning.
Hear that?
How's it going?
If they pick you up, are you leaving this show?
Yes. I mean, I don't know yet. Possibly.
The NPR voices are so calming.
I know. Sweaty balls. Remember that?
Can you handle it? Can you handle it solo, Will, if they pick John up?
No, you'll just have to join me on the show every day.
Yeah.
Oh, you can.
If you're willing to produce every episode,
here he goes.
Every guest,
just set him up.
Do everything besides show up on Thursday at 2. He'll get along great with you. All right.
You gave him an opportunity to vent. Thanks, Beth.
So we have.
Better keep you where you're at, then, John.
That's right. We'll call this the green screen episode. But also, Will, you have some news for us.
I do. You talking about what today is?
Yeah.
Do you know that today is National Voters Day, actually? I looked that up because I knew you were going to ask me that question, and I wanted to have something snarky. Today is National Voters Day, and it's a day where we're supposed to appreciate our rights as Americans to vote. It also happens to be my birthday. Today is January the 25th, 2024. Not when the show. Thank you. Not when the show airs. It won't be, but today.
No. You'll be half a year older by the time the show. And my birthday was last Thursday when we recorded.
We're exactly a week apart.
We are, and a couple of trips around the sun. Yeah,
a few. Not that many.
Well, happy birthday, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday.
My present is doing a show with you two.
Oh, you're sweet. Will, do you remember the podcast rule from last week?
No, I'm sure I don't. Was it leadership traits under stress? Was it?
The podcast rule is whoever is the guest on a host's birthday has to buy the host dinner that night.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I got CJ last week. She has not followed up on that for some reason.
You know, I bet Beth would buy me dinner if I asked, but
I would. Not tonight, but we'll pencil it in. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's not the podcast. Listen, I don't make podcast rules. I just enforce them. If you want to be a scofflaw, be a scofflaw. Okay, and then also I'll just say, so we can get going, is, Will, you noticed these last week. I was very proud of you. We switched out to some new slides.
Yes, they look great.
Yeah, they're good. They are the ones that we now use in our official workshop. So this will be old news by the time this airs. But Beth, we are publishing our first. See, this is why I can't record videos live. I have to use robots because when I think, my eyes go up, and it looks wacky. So we're trying to look in the camera. We are publishing next Tuesday our very first branded case study for one of our workshops. We call it the build a culture of communication, and we aim it at early stage startups because they typically don't practice communication skills,
Okay.
and that can really cost them at the exact wrong time. So we're thrilled to have I'll say Chalice, Allie, thank you so much.
Shout out to Chalice.
Absolutely, because they're the branded name. So look for that. It's very interesting. But enough about our business exploits. Let's get to the pod. I'm John Lane.
I am Will Barfield.
We are
A
a work in progress. Glad to be here as always. We have a special guest.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to do the gag, Will? Do you remember the gag?
No.
Do you remember anything from week to week?
Leadership traits under stress.
Okay, you got that. Good. No,
I'm ready for that slide.
She's a special guest because the slide said so.
Oh,
and
yes.
Slides don't lie.
I know my jokes. I don't know your jokes.
Slides don't lie.
They don't.
All right, Beth.
Everything you see on a slide is true.
Absolutely.
Always.
Please introduce yourself to our one remaining listener. After that,
hi, Mom.
15-minute onslaught.
Yeah, we've lost the rest. Well, everything on that slide is true. Thanks for having me, though, guys. So, I do business development and managing partner at Rankin McKenzie, and we provide fractional CFO and controller services. I've been here 13 years. John, I got to meet you recently, and Will, I've known you for, about 13 years.
That's right.
So, thanks for having me.
Well, we are thrilled to have you on. Thank you so much. And
Coffee and Herities. That's what it was.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
What's Herities? Yep. What's Herities?
It's a really cool coffee. I think it's still open. Coffee and pastry shop right there off of Oberlin, right there, Oberlin and Glenwood.
Yep.
Oh, I know. That's my neighborhood.
Where the Glenwood Grill is. So it's right there in the corner. Great place.
Yeah.
Always busy. Really good coffee.
They should be a sponsor.
They make some beautiful cakes too.
They do. Yeah. Great
sponsor. Potential sponsor, John.
Yeah, look them up. All right. Well, here's where we get going. Will, what do we talk about here?
Leadership traits under stress, John.
Yes.
I've been under stress on a couple of these slides already today.
How do we figure out
exhibiting my leadership skills?
How do we figure this out? Walk us through.
Well, we use the OAD.
We do.
Most outstanding assessment on the planet. It says that on the slide, doesn't it?
More or less.
To unlock and define superpowers.
Yes.
And it's highly accurate, easy to administer, eliminates social desirability distortions because of the way it's constructed, and it's built to the standards of leading international psychological institutions and rating agencies. Look at all of those logos.
Beautiful.
They can't be wrong.
And what that means, slides don't
trust
lie.
the data.
Slides don't lie, and you can trust the data. So that's where we get started. We always talk about the leadership style matrix.
Yep.
In our world, we talk about generalists or specialists. We talk about socially oriented or technically oriented people. As an example, I am a socially oriented generalist in the builder quadrant, and I am what's called a negotiator. Will, you are a
technically oriented generalist in the architects quadrant, and I am a developer.
And our friend Beth is also a builder negotiator. I know. Biz dev, kind of a classic. So we're going to be getting into that. I am sorry to say that this is episode 58. I think we've had about 28 builder negotiators. They're just, they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's good, but they are everywhere.
They're outgoing. They're extroverted.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're everywhere. They're just easier for you to find.
That's probably a good. Adding value on the first slide. Thank you.
And they want to be found. Beth, I got a question for you.
Yes.
How does it feel to be reduced to a two-dimensional table?
I'm okay with it. I'm good. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
You cool with the compression?
Yeah, I am.
It works for you.
It does.
Can I say it's slimming?
I think it is.
Two-dimensional.
That's the only way I can get slimmer. But what does this slide tell us about her, John?
Well, let's break it down. So we always talk about on the pie anyway, just the relative traits, and these sit together this way. And so Beth's relative traits, we read it right to left. So the most dominant is on the right. So her most dominant traits are extroversion. She's a people person. She's open. She's amiable. She is also on the assertive side, which we use words like venturesome and comfortable with risk and comfortable with ambiguity. People who are high A like that, they tend to care more about that work gets done more so than how work gets done. And we see down here her patience. We look at patience to the P to the A. She's a pretty impatient person. She's comfortable with change. And then we look at our friend detail orientation. When we say it, we call this as falling D, which means that a little bit you're definitely an A, you're definitely a delegator, but when stuff is important to you, you're going to pay attention to it. You're going to kind of come back and do that. I'm a negotiator, but I'm way down here.
Yeah, he's got a trailing D.
I spend my day building working systems to remember to do stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't get them done. So and we're both negotiators. So not every negotiator is the same, of course.
Okay.
All right. So now these are the new slides, Beth, if you were wondering.
Okay. Very nice.
And
colorful.
They're color coded, right? So because if I know you're thinking this, but if you go back here, our builders are red, our architects are blue, our experts are yellow, and our facilitators are green. So I'm coloring in the numbers.
So Beth, anyone who takes the OAD assessment and ends up in the builder negotiator category is going to see these same generic superpowers. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on this part of the slide, but is there one of these that you believe or feels most accurate, or that others close to you would say that, or those that work with you would say that's her? One of those jump off the page?
Yep. Several, right? But yeah, because that's kind of all part of what I do. They're all a part and parcel of that. The interesting one, I think, that I wouldn't have thought of as a superpower, though, is task delegator. And so it jumps out at me. The rest are a little more obvious, I guess, to me. So yeah, task delegator. And I kind of kicking and screaming agreed to get an assistant. And I can tell you it was the biggest game changer of my entire life and has elevated my game, which is it's phenomenal. So that just jumps out at me in that I have more ability to delegate now than I ever have before. And it truly is a game changer.
Awesome.
Was the kicking and screaming part because of control?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I couldn't imagine giving up control if it wouldn't get done right if I didn't do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
A little bit of that is that D, instead of being a typical negotiator going all the way down, it kind of held up.
When it's important to me, I don't want to release it. And
exactly.
That's what that falling D is telling you. Great call on that, John. Kryptonite, generic again. John would see the same ones as you. Anything here, one of these really stand out or surprise you?
I would say probably not attentive to detail. Follow-up is not something that I usually have a problem with, but like John, I just have to make a lot of notes to make sure it happens. But the detail, and so that is definitely kryptonite for me. And I think the way I've been able to combat that is surrounding myself with folks that are able to take care of the detail that it's just not my strong suit.
That's right. So. And people like us who been around a few years, we know ourselves pretty well. And this dawned on me, but I've spent so many years building systems to protect myself from my kryptonite. I didn't really know I was doing that, but I've always kept to-do lists and daily priorities, and I work the CRM as hard as I can, because if I don't, I'll forget stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is my version of what you sent us back.
Okay.
So I just jumped on your slide.
Jump all over it.
Well, I'll do this one. Yeah. So these are your leadership superpower moments. This is where you get to brag on us a little bit. The next slide is where we're going to tear you apart. But let's do this one. What do you think of these superpowers? Why did you give these to us?
Walk us through your bullets here.
Yeah.
Well, so people do matter to me, and it's where I get my energy. And so I think it is very fortunate that I get to do what I do for a living. Because I have to feed off that energy of folks on the client side, but I also feed off that energy on the team side. And so, it allows me to love what I do. Which I think if you're a happy leader, you're a better leader. Details, I think we covered that, right?
Yep.
Right. Definitely have some things in place for that, as well as delegating. And then the urgent and the anxious, that's a balance that I try to find. So I think part of being successful in a business development role, part of that is the urgency. Someone reaches out to you, they don't want to hear from you 3 weeks later, right? It's pretty much within 24 hours. You have to acknowledge that, I hear you and we're going to move forward. On the team side, they're all busy, but I need to hear from them quickly sometimes. And so there's a little bit of that fine line of sometimes me being, I guess, making them anxious because of my urgency. I want it when I'm ready now.
Yeah.
So.
What if you're ready, but the prospect that you're working with isn't ready or is being indecisive, or you think the decision's pretty clear and it's time to move, and they're hemming and hawing? Can you pull the reins on yourself and not drive and charge through the deal and hold and let it happen? Or do you find yourself getting in your own way sometime, crossing that line?
It's taken time, I would say, to learn that balance. And it's not that I still don't drive it and the follow-up isn't there. It's finding the right cadence.
Yeah.
And so over 13 years, it's truly just been finding that right mix of the when versus bothering. Right. So, and honestly, they're all busy people. Sometimes they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but there is a fine line.
Kryptonite, right? So again, you selected these. You added the detail when you were communicating with John pre-show. Walk us through what these mean to you. Your shadow side. When things get hard.
Yep.
Logo.
Shadow side is, I think, sometimes I'm a firm believer in your biggest strength can also be a weakness, right? You have to be very careful. And so sometimes the details do matter. And that one always just jumps out at me because that's not where I'm naturally inclined. And so that's where I go back, and not just the assistant that we've been able to bring on, thankfully, but also partners and especially the other two managing partners. And I lean on them. They're CFOs. They're much more detail orientated. And it literally took something like I was getting someone else's non-disclosure, 4-page non-disclosure, and I'm trying to read through it. My head was about to explode. And when I realized, why am I doing this? Yeah. Called Robert, and within 15 minutes he wrote back, asked him to change this one line and we're good to go. And the light bulb went off. And I went, why would I spend 3 hours when that's a waste of time versus what I'm good at? And so it just takes time, right, to learn how to overcome some of the kryptonite, I guess. So thankfully for me, I've got a strong team that we complement each other.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah. And that leads into the board quickly, right? So if the detail's really important and I can focus on it, I'm good. But the other stuff, again, my head will explode.
Charlie Brown's teacher.
Exactly. Exactly. And the urgent, anxious, I think I kind of alluded to that. That's a little bit of a struggle sometimes to find that fine balance.
Well, we're doing leadership traits under stress. And so this is what we're talking about. So it's like when that big deal is and you're trying to drag it into the current month rather than letting it fall to the next month and everyone's pushing on it. Those are the times where your most extreme traits can sort of start working against you, either directly or indirectly by working against the team. So that's a lot of what our coaching is all about, right? We help people to identify those traits. We kind of do it here in a light, fun way, but in a more professional setting, we call those things out. We show people how they come across to others and how others come across to them so that they can learn that. And it creates kind of a love language, right? So Will and I are both generalists, but I'm on the more social side. I'm falling in love with a new vendor that reached out to me that wants to do something for us. I'm signing the contract, and Will's like, slow down. Where'd you find them? I'm putting money in too, so I need to review it. And so we will he'll mostly tease me about moving too fast and not like seeing the shiny thing, but not really digging in as well as I could. So it's a really helpful process for us.
It sounds like you guys complement each other well. And that's important in a partnership. It just is, right? If you had everyone be the same in a partnership, it would be a disaster.
It would be a disaster, 100%.
Great segue. So, Beth, you've been through this experience now, took the assessment, you read through the results, did the homework with John, and then we've gone through the show. And
never bored.
About you. Never.
We appreciate it.
I don't know how often you do assessment exercises like this or self-analysis, but now you've done this, and how do you apply what you learned and gathered from this experience with us and with the OAD tool, and utilize this strengths and weaknesses, superpowers, and kryptonite analysis to help you with what you're doing as a leader, either at work or with volunteer efforts or anything else you're doing in the community?
I think it's I don't do a ton of assessments. I've done a few. This one was fantastic, though. What an easy process.
Great.
And honestly, I think very, very accurate. Right. It's literally who you are at your core. And so how do you manage that? Right. So how to apply that? I think it's being self-aware and reflective of the results. And for me, how that affects people outside in the outside world. Right. The partners that I work with and the prospective clients that I'm talking to. And it's well, like I said, sometimes it's pulling the reins on some of those traits. Right. And some of them it's leaning into, getting energy off people. That's something, I continue to lean into because that's the really important part of my job. But there's some other traits and qualities. It's learning how to put the reins on that. And I think that's kind of what this showed me. There's just some qualities that while it will help you, and again, that's kind of what we talked about, John, your biggest strength is also your biggest weakness. So what will help you be successful can also be a little detrimental if you're not careful. So you've got to learn when to put the reins on.
Well, it's great that the results showed that you were a task delegator, and that you brought up that before this assistant came in, which you fought against, that you would not have, given that as a skill or a strength or a trait, that you were a delegator, but yet now that you found yourself in a situation where you have a trusted resource for that, much more free with it and able to release. So it was always there.
Yeah, that was a big surprise for me. Yeah, that was a big surprise. But like you said, well, I mean, now that I have a trusted resource, man, oh man, I'll give now as much as I can that she's able to do. It's awesome.
Awesome. Great.
Well, now that you've experienced this with us, who's next? Is there someone you can think of that you work with or network with or on a board with that would enjoy this process, find some value in it, and be a good guest, have fun with us?
I actually think you guys would really enjoy meeting Anna Hunter. She is a CFO on my team. She's been with us a long time, but she has wide variety of experiences in her past. She has done everything from raise money, you name it. She's done it with companies, mostly in the software, in the SaaS space. And she is just quite frankly a rock star CFO. And so I think it would be interesting for you guys to meet her and for her to go through this process.
Great. Well, I'll follow up with you after the show how we do that. I will say this, though. She is not going to be an upper right builder.
Nope.
Not as a CFO.
I'll be interested to see where she lands.
I am too. And the reason is she's an extraordinarily straight shooter. Very, very she communicates really, really well. But she's also, I mean, I don't know if if her results will show, but I'm guessing kind of extrovert, not far over, but I'm guessing anyway, it'll be really, really, she's a little bit of an economy.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. Hi, Anna. And I can't believe it. We're at the end.
Oh.
Beth, thank you. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it.
Really nice to do that. I'm John Lane.
I am Will Barfield.
And we are, say it with us, Beth, a work in progress.
Work in progress.
You are a work in process. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. I enjoyed it.
Work in Progress is a podcast presentation of Slipshod Productions. Available on LinkedIn and YouTube. Executive produced and starring John Lane and Will Barfield. Talent booking, production, and editing by John Lane. Thanks for watching. See you next week.